Welcome back to the show. This is the Caffeinated Cooper Show. I am your host, Elizabeth Cooper. Once again this evening, I've got my nice warm cup of tea, and I have a lovely lady on the line with me tonight that you're going to get to meet and hear her story and feel what she has gone through. Her story is one that really, when I first spoke to her, it was a phone conversation, and we were on the phone for several hours as she went in detail everything she's gone to and where it's brought her today. And, I am a religious person. I believe in God, and I try to follow my path that I believe is put there for me in a divine way. But I don't push religion. However, I'm going to say that there is so much strength within God's plan and message for us. And today, this is Barbara Archer that will be joining us. And she is an author. Hello, Barbara. How are you?
Good evening, Elizabeth. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I was just telling everyone that you're an author. You have released a book, and refresh me again. When did the book come out that is called Insanity to Sane?
Well, the book came out October 2015. I had to revise it a little bit because I changed it to Tell All, because there were some things that I wanted to keep. I think as women, we want to hold something to us. We don't want to just tell the entire world everything. We have to hold something to ourselves. So I wanted to keep some things just to myself. But God, He wouldn't let me. He was like, Tell All. And I'm like, okay. So I went back, revised the book, and named it Tell All, From Insanity to Sane.
I love that. Now, you shared the story about Insanity to Sane. Would you mind sharing that story with us live tonight?
Sure. What happened early on in life, at the age of 14 years old, my life took a turn. One man decided that he would alter my life forever, and he did. He brutally raped me and beat me and left me there on the ground. That night, I remember I felt as though that someone had left my body and something else invaded me. And it has taken me 35 years to get to a place now that I have acknowledged that, all right, I need to deal with this issue. And it started to come back in late night dreams. I was having sweats, just having dreams of abuse, violence. Everywhere I turned, there it was. And I couldn't understand what was happening to me. And then one night, God woke me up and gave me the name From Insanity to Sane. And I'm like, what am I going to do with From Insanity to Sane? So I got up, I wrote it down on a piece of paper. I'm like, okay, I'm going back to bed. And then months later, that's when God spoke to me and said, you're going to write your book. So I'm thinking, okay, He wants me to do this thing now. So I went ahead, I finished the book in 60 days and ready to go to the publisher and all this. But it wasn't His timing for it. So what I've learned is that there are times it can be our season and not our time and not our turn. So I went through a lot. And in the past 2 years, I've gone through therapy, and I discovered in therapy that my father, he molested me when I was a little girl. As a little girl, I remember the age of 5 and 6 years old having the urge to masturbate, not really knowing what masturbation was.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always felt this release that I had to release something. And going through counseling, brought it all out. So now I'm like, okay, now what do I do with this now that my father is deceased? I can't confront this person. So what do I do with all of this? And it left a hole in me that I never trusted men. In fact, I despised them. And in counseling, my counselor told me, she says, how do you view men? And I remember these words to her. I says, there are times I could picture myself with a machete and I could just gouge their hearts right out their bodies.
Wow.
And she knew that I had, that I needed some deep therapy. She was like, I need to see you a couple days a week. And this is way after accepting Christ as my savior, because if you don't deal with these issues, they never go away. They're going to always be there. So I never referred to men as men. I always looked at them as though they were species. Like you see them under a microscope.
Mm.
non-existence pretty much, very void. And I spent my entire life like that. So now I'm at a place, so that's why the book is called From Insanity to Sane, because God has taken me from insanity to sane. And I'm still working on the sanity part. I've come a long way, but I still have a little way to go. But I know God's going to get me there.
My goodness.
Yeah. And through the pain of not dealing with the rape, because my mother, she didn't want to talk about it, and she never sought justice for me. So I felt as though that she didn't protect me as a mother should protect their child. Because I know I'm a mother. Someone does something to my kid, I'm not going to wait for the law to take matters in my hands. I'm going to probably take matters in my own hands because that's my child. I want to protect my child. So I felt as though that she didn't vindicate me. And so it left me on a path of criminal activity. I started hanging out with the wrong people. And a life of crime is what soothed my pain. So I was locked up in jail. Between jail and prison, I was locked up like 14 different times. In and out of jail, in and out of prison. I had my son when I was locked up in prison. My last child that I gave birth to, I walked out the hospital and never looked back. And then 3 days later, I went to a prison again. So I was always in pursuit of something, not knowing what that I needed, but I always felt there was a void in my life. And I tried to fill that void, and crime was the only thing that really did it. I started stealing cars, hot wiring cars, selling the parts, breaking into homes, armed robbery, just anything that what I could do to get me to that next place that I felt some sort of release. And then eventually, everything caught up with me. And when it did, it came up. I had 42 counts of felony theft. And that was the turning point in my life, and I didn't know what to do. I was in prison. I had my daughter. I didn't know what I had, but I was told that it was a girl. And a couple days later, I went to prison, and I was in prison on no bail. And at that point, I remember when I got locked up and I got up in population, there was this pamphlet, and it was called "How Do God Deal with Hard Hits?" And I knew I was having a God moment at that exact moment. And I read that pamphlet. And when I went to bed that night, I had it laid on my chest, Elizabeth. And I woke up in the morning and it was gone. And it was like there was an angel that came into the prison, gave me that pamphlet. And then as fast as it came in, it was gone. No one saw the pamphlet ever again. And my two children almost lost custody to them because I was locked up. And my sister, she contacted Child Protective Services. They was due to come pick up both children and put them in foster care, which would have been March the 28th. But God stepped in March the 27th, and I was released on my personal recognizance. Came home just in time so that my children would not go into foster home. And from that point, it took me about a year before all of my charges, we was able to plead down my charges. But when it was all said and done, I didn't serve any jail time. Not one day did I serve. The judge he granted me 3 years probation, 1 year supervised, last 2 unsupervised probation, 33 hours community service, no restitution. And afterwards, Elizabeth, I was standing there with my lawyer and my mother, and the judge, he took off his robe and he started to walk towards me. This was right in Frederick County here in Frederick, Maryland. And he came up to me and he gave me a hug. And he embraced me and he looked at me and he says, "You're going to make a difference in a lot of women's lives." And he walked right on off.
Wow.
And from that point on, that's when my life really changed. I gave back. I started volunteering at the jail as a chaplain. And that was so rewarding. So I feel that it doesn't matter where you start in life, it's how you finish. So it's been a rocky road, but it's been a good road. And I wouldn't change anything. Not one thing would I change. Not one thing I would do differently, because I feel it's made me the woman that I am today. But now I'm trying to embrace that 14-year-old girl all over again. And God is starting to align me with her again. So I'm interested to know who she is and what she would be like now.
Yeah.
And that may sound kind of off to some people, but when you know a person's battle and their story, it's like I always believed that God was going to bring me back to that 14-year-old girl
Hmm.
before before the violence, before the abuse, because I always wondered what she would be like because I took on a whole new persona after the rape and the beating. I became a woman that had no feelings towards no one, only cared about myself. And I was very cold, very distant, and that's not how I remember me when I was 14 years old. So I'm just starting to get to know who young Barbara is
Wow.
after 35 years.
It takes a moment with God and with those angels, and some people believe in angels, some don't. I
Right.
do.
Yeah.
It takes a moment to be touched by them to get to a point to be able to tell that 14-year-old girl she didn't do anything wrong. It's
Right.
not her fault. And that, for me, and for some of the things I've gone through, that has been one of the hardest steps to make.
Hmm.
And I'm just so happy for you that you're able to go back and reunite yourself with that 14-year-old
Right.
because she didn't do anything wrong and she is perfectly made and she is beautiful. And that was the devil working in that man to do that to
Yeah.
you. And it's so interesting to try to rationalize our emotions and our innate feelings and what we want to do, and to really look at life as plastic.
Right.
Like there is no feelings, so you can just be you however you want to be you because you're not associated with any of it around you. And it's such a weird mindset to be into, but it's not a real one.
Right. Yeah.
uh my goodness. So
It's been a long road.
yes, now you're writing a second book,
Yes.
Dare to Be Sane.
Yes. Dare to be sane. What happened is this. Like I said, when I originally published a book, that was in 2015, and I went ahead of God. So now I have pulled the book because it's back in the publisher's hand one more time, and I'm finally getting to finish the last chapter of the book.
Wow.
And because it's like I'm going from insanity to sane. So while I'm going there, and what helped me to really go there was about a year or so ago, a girlfriend of mine's told me, Barbara, you haven't dated in a while. You need to get back out there and start to date again. So I decided to go on a dating site. And this is what, and can God use a dating site? Yes, he can.
Mm-hmm.
I went on the dating site and I started to meet some very nice gentlemen. And I remember this one particular gentleman that I met, and we are still friends today. He is my best friend ever. I love him so much. And his name is Vincent. And he said to me one evening on the phone, he says, "You hate men."
Mm-hmm.
And I became so angry with him that I could have just went through the phone and choked him. That's how angry I was. And I realized, wait a minute, Barbara, you'd have had three people tell you this. There got to be some truth to this stuff now. Okay. You can't blame everyone else. You got to blame yourself now. So I looked at it and I said, okay, God, what is going on here? And God started to reveal my own thoughts that I thought I had conquered this. I thought I was over this and I had moved on.
Mm-hmm.
God said, no, you still got some residue there. And whenever I feel I'm being challenged by a man, that anger comes out. And sometimes it can come out pretty bad when it does come out.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, long story short, I started to deal with my insanity that I had towards men. And because I always wanted to be in some cases I was the man in a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and I tried to dominate every relationship that I ever had because I was out of control and I had to control something. And I was able to control certain relationships in my life. So the dating site really helped me to see myself and see what my real issues were. And so I could really deal with them. And I feel now I'm at a place that there are times I still get some, that I still have some anger there. And I'm going to be very real and transparent about that. Is it getting better? Yes, it's getting better. But there are moments that um, I do reflect back on um, the pain, the abuse. I think that you never get over it, but you
Mhm.
learn to deal with it. I don't think you ever get over it, but you can definitely deal with it, and so that it doesn't control your life. So I went through many different stages, and then finally, I was like, okay, I need a chapter. I need to finish this book because there's a chapter. So right now, I'm at a place that God is really shining some light into some dark areas when it comes down to matters of the heart, because my heart has been so cold for so long. I did not know how to open my heart or to be transparent, to be vulnerable. So I'm learning that. But what God has been teaching me is that I equate God with the man that who raped me and beat me. And that really surprised me because I felt as though that, where were you at that night, God? Were you with me?
Mhm.
You knew this was going to happen. Why didn't you protect me? And even though God gave me an answer for that a year or so ago, there's still something in me that I still hold it against God, because I feel that you are God of love. Why did you let that happen to me?
Mhm.
My life would have been different. So the reason why I've had a hard time submitting to men was because I struggle with submitting to God's will. And I had a dear friend and sister in Christ that sent me a wonderful email yesterday, and she really spoke to me in a lot of different areas. And I started to pray about those areas. And I felt as though there is something else that God wants me to put in that final chapter. And I told her, I said, I can't move forward until God speaks to me. I need to know what that last final thing is that I'm battling with, because that is what other people need to hear about. They
Mhm.
don't need to hear about all the other things. They need to know, okay, what was my real issue? And the real issue is matters of the heart. And that has been my biggest demon that I had to overcome. So I'm still growing. So Dare to Be Seen is more of a workbook. And when it comes out, I'm going to be offering the book for free. I don't want to make money off of the second book because it's a workbook. I have a lot of prayers in it. I have a lot of scriptures in it. I have it's like a workbook. And I'm giving you the tools that what you need to work through your insanity. So it's something I don't want someone to miss out on getting something because maybe they don't have $15.99 for the workbook. I don't want no one to miss out on it because they don't have the money. So if I can give it away and it's going to bless someone, it's not about money as it is about seeing people's lives being changed. It took me 35 years just to break free, and I still struggle, and I think that we always evolving, so we always going to be growing, we're always going to be changing, so it's like it's never an ending thing. You're going to always grow, you're going to continue to change, you're going to discover new things about yourself, and sometimes we can frown upon people that say that they Christians or they in the church and they still have struggles, and I feel that people that say that they don't have struggles have more struggles than those that come clean. But
Of
that's just
course.
that's my personal opinion. I'm going to say it. I'm going to preach it to the day Christ comes back, because we all struggle with something. None of us are perfect. And I think that's what the main reason that some people do not believe there is a God, or they don't believe that God exists, because I think they've already been there, they've already tried it, and I feel that they've been disappointed in people.
Mhm.
So my message is to men and women, young and old, all around the world, that God loves you just where you at. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all together. You are a work in progress. Just continue to grow and never stop and never give up.
Exactly. And if we stop and think about what is perfect,
Right.
it's what we're taught
Mm-hmm.
in society
Right.
by other human beings that also don't think that they're perfect,
Right.
that have their own struggles,
Mm-hmm.
but yet we're trying to be like them.
Right. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
this crazy, crazy cycle. And it's so much easier when you stop and you say, okay, God, this is what you gave me.
Right.
And I'm going to appreciate it. I'm
Right.
going to do the very, very best
Right.
with it. And something else that you mentioned about women, how we like to kind of stuff it all down. It seems easier because we get so busy and we've got the kids and we have work and we have all these obligations and things that we spastically sign ourselves up for.
Right.
That the answer we get is, I'm fine.
Right. Yeah.
And something I saw fairly recently is they wrote, I am fine in script. And when you put that in a mirror, it says, save me.
Hmm.
So I'm fine backwards is
Right.
save me.
All right.
And that I have applied to my own teenage daughters because I've seen that it happens as early as my 10-year-old does it.
Right.
When
Yeah.
she has something in her head and we can all see, there's something going on.
Right. Yeah.
And we think that we're so sick. We think that we're hiding it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
that, we're going through struggles with men and we don't trust men and we don't like men. And yet you have a man that says, you hate men.
Mm.
It's like, darn it, I thought I had that hidden.
Right. I thought I did, and I mean, Vincent is still part of my life today. He's taught me a lot of things. He taught me about what relationships are. You have to cultivate it. You have to nurture it. So I've learned a lot from him, and he's still in my life today. I believe he will always be in my life, because I'm able to look past, because all my life I always thought whatever happens to men, they deserve it. They cause all the problems in the world. So I felt as though that if I can't hurt the man who hurt me, I'll hurt any other man. And I went through life doing exactly that because someone had to pay for my pain. And I was determined that any man I met, he was going to pay for it. But God has given me a heart for them now that I can look beyond that and see that, what, they suffer too. Mm-hmm. They suffer more in silence than what we do. We more verbal, we more vocal. Men, they keep everything inwardly, and it was at a place, and I just had to realize that, wait a minute, he's broken himself. Who has hurt him? Maybe he grew up in a household where his father, like the man who raped and beat me, he was born in a family that he saw his mother being beat by his father 7 days a week. So when you grow up in that type of environment, you do have a choice to make. Mm-hmm. You can either choose to be like your father or you can be total opposite. But very seldom you go to the other side. You go to the side where you're most comfortable with, because it is your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And I get it now, and I had to forgive him. And that was the hardest thing I had to do, was to forgive him. Mm-hmm. But I have forgiven him. I wish him all the best in life, even though he hasn't had a good life. But I wish him good in life, and, I just want to be able to help other women to realize that it's okay. Yeah. You don't have to cover it up. You don't have to be ashamed of what happened to you. It's like, okay, I have to deal with the fact that my father, he abused me sexually as a child, so now I'm having to process that. But what has been the hardest? And I thought it would be because of what my father did, but the hardest thing I had to deal with is the rape. It's like I have accepted the fact what my father did to me, but I could not move past what this man did to me. And that's been my biggest struggle. And I'm like, why do I struggle so much with it? So I'm allowing myself to feel, mm-hmm. to be open, mm-hmm. embrace my emotions, because my mother taught me, shh, be quiet. Let's not talk about it. You don't talk about it, it'll go away.
Right.
And that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. It really is. And I've learned from that. And I've done opposite while I raise my children.
Mhm.
You know, I want them to talk about whatever their feelings are, whether it's good or bad. Talk about it, get it out.
Mhm.
You know, so you don't have to keep that stuff in, because when you keep it in, it causes you to go crazy. You know, and I couldn't understand it. You know, and one day I said, God, I'm like, why am I insane? You know, He said, you do the same thing over again, expecting a different result. That is your insanity. And I'm
Exactly.
like, darn, really? And God was like, yep, that is your insanity. You know, and I mean, I've been married 3 times. Can no longer blame these men. You know, I had to look inwardly at myself
Yeah.
and see, okay, Barbara, what is your part that you played in these failed marriages as well? You know, now one of them was not my fault because I married an abusive man. You
Mhm.
know, and a lot of times when you have been abused, you gravitate towards abusive people.
Mhm.
You know, so it's like reprogramming myself all over again. You know, so that I know what is right about a person and what is wrong about a person, because they say what you are is what you attract, and that's what we have been told. But I don't believe that. You know, I believe that things that has happened to us, and I used to use this analogy at the prison. I would tell the women inmates, I says, now because you have a drug problem, if I were to bring 50 men in a room and one would be a drug dealer, you would automatically point to that one. You know, because so often is where your pain is in life. You know what I'm saying? It's like you looking at yourself in a mirror.
Mhm.
So you're able to see that person that has the exact same issue as yourself. So what I've learned, that once I become whole and renewed, then I will attract the right type of man. But until I can deal with my insanity, I will always attract the wrong type of men. You know, and a lot of young girls today, they go through, you know, my heart breaks for this young generation because they put all their confidence, they put everything into their sexuality. And that's where my heart bleeds for this young generation. You know, they don't know the value of their bodies, you know, and it's what the book is teaching young girls. So I'm very proud of this book. You know, I put a lot of hard work and tears and sweat in it, you know, and I'm looking forward to it coming out, you know, this year, you know, and I'm very excited about it. So I just want to be able to help as many young people as I possibly can, so that they don't have to go through the pain that I had to go through and other women had to go through.
Mhm. I think it's so inspiring what you're doing, and it's so needed. Um, you had mentioned that man that you
Hmm.
connected with. What is his name?
His name is Vincent.
Rulinski?
Yes.
He just joined our podcast. Do you want me to bring him up?
You can if you want, if you don't mind.
Okay. No, I don't mind. He stepped away,
Hmm.
but once he can hear us, he may pop back in there.
Hmm.
Oh, here comes Vincent.
I'm right here. Yes.
Oh, we only see a little bit of your face, though. Move the camera over just a little bit. Keep going to your left.
So what do I?
Welcome to
Yes,
the
I'm right here.
show. You're here with Barbara and I. How are you?
I'm doing great. How's your evening?
Very, very well. Very well. So I see that you joined the
Good.
show. I'm assuming that you have some
Yes.
interjection.
I am very open to listening and discussion. I just want to know. I kind of got here late because I couldn't get in very easily. So just fill me in. Fill me in what's going on.
Well,
I missed the first. I missed the first 10 minutes.
okay. Well, Barbara Archer, she
Yes.
was sharing her story with us about how she created Insanity to Sane, her first book, and now leading into her second book, which she is offering everyone for free, Dare to Be Insane, because it's more of a workbook. Is that right?
Yes, yes, it is.
And we were just, she was wrapping up a thought about how we internalize things and how she is getting back to her 14-year-old self to conclude what was broken there and be able to say it's not your fault. You did nothing wrong. And
No, exactly. I
that's a
agree
very
with all of
daunting
that.
task
Yeah.
to do. Um, and my heart goes out to you, Barbara, and what you've gone through in your childhood. And it should not have happened.
Right. Yeah.
But it makes so much sense. She was also mentioning how she wound up seeking men that she already knew the relationship wasn't going to work. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and she already knew that she didn't like men. She couldn't stand them, but she wasn't going to let that come to the surface. It just came out over time in 3 broken marriages,
Right.
unfortunately.
Right.
And
Definitely.
Right.
that's how
Exactly.
it does. That's how it manifests.
Mm-hmm.
Barbara, I went through the Landmark Forum when
Okay.
I moved to Los Angeles, which was one of the toughest things I've ever done. I've said it upside down and backwards because I left my children to go do that and to go get myself into the LA circuit, and which I did, and I'm very happy that I did. But I was there for 6 weeks. I come home for a week, spend a week with the kids, go back for 6 weeks, and going back and forth and back and forth. Gone through a divorce, all this kind of stuff. Go through the Landmark Forum. And I realized that I was taking my past and putting it into my future.
Right.
Just like you had said, it's that cycle of insanity. You're doing
Yeah.
it over and over and over, and they teach you how to break that cycle.
Right. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
been so powerful.
Yeah. And I mean, it's been a long journey. I mean, I went through Celebrate Recovery at my church, and that was the first tool that God used to really help me deal with my insanity. And with Vincent, Vince and I have been in each other's lives for a year now, and he's been a dear friend of mine in so many ways, my best friend ever, and it's amazing, when I think about it. And him and I, we always joke about this all the time. It's amazing that the one thing that I always fought the most, that God used to bring about my healing. So it's just amazing how God just works everything out. Vincent has been very, very patient with me over this year, just really just being a support to me emotionally, and for that, I will always be grateful for. I know that God, He brings people in our lives for different reasons and for different seasons, and God definitely brought him in my life at the right time, and you know, it's just amazing how when you just yield everything to God and just give it to Him, what He will not do in your life. And I know some people believe in God, some people believe in the universe, whatever that what you believe in. I'm not here to downplay or to come at anyone because of what you believe or what you do not believe.
Mm-hmm.
But there will come a time in your
Right.
life, okay, that you're going to believe in something. Something in your life is going to hit you so hard that it's going to bring you to the end of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came to the end of myself, I couldn't go any further. I couldn't go any, I mean, I was already down. How far could I go? Only up, you know. And I was born and raised in church. My mother had me in church from the time I was a baby up until when I became a teenager. But then I got bored, and I'm like, gotta be something else in this world other than going to church. And I was determined I was going to find it. So, now I'm at a place in my life that, yes, God is the center. He is my foundation. I can't make it without Him because He gives me strength. Even this evening, I had struggled with something because something took place early this afternoon, and it really threw me off my game a little bit. And I reached out to Vince and I talked with him, and he encouraged me, and he told me, he was like, you can do this, and I had to press through everything just to be here this evening. So, there's always something that you're going to have to fight in life, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but I'm learning now that it's not about the fight as it is. I'm learning to pick the right fights.
Mm-hmm.
Not every fight I have to fight.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to pick the right fights. So there's so much more than what I could really speak on about my journey. But I'm here today. And I was going to go through another counseling session, but I'm no longer going to do that because I know God. He is healing me. There's one part that is, I'm not quite sure what that is, but I know that he's going to reveal that to me, because he told me, he says, I'm going to shed light in those dark areas of your life.
Yeah.
And I'm reuniting you with that 14-year-old girl again. So I feel that I'm on my way, and I'm excited to get that last chapter done. And, so it's been a journey, but it's been a good journey, So if I feel like this, and there was a time that when I went through it, there was a time that I tried to commit suicide. And I used to think that people that did that, oh my gosh, they must be weak. It's not weak. Life can hit you sometimes that you feel that's your only way out, that you get tired of the pain, you get tired of living, you get tired of going through the same thing over and over again, and that's where I was at. And I remember going into my children's room, they was in their bed sleeping, and I was just looking over them, and I said, when you wake up in the morning, mama will be gone. And I walked out of that bedroom, and I went in the bathroom, and when I looked in the mirror, God spoke to me and says, I did not bring you this far for your life to end here. And I had to push through that, and all I had was a whole bottle of pills, but I was just done. I had no more fight left, so
Right.
I know how it feels, and I don't look at people that have those moments, because guess what? It's like they were just hit with something that they was tired, and we all get tired. A physical tired you can get over.
Mhm.
But when you tired emotionally and mentally, it's easy to just throw in the towel and say, you know what, I'm done. I'm checking out. So I've been there. You know, I had to fight different things, even in the church. My second husband, he was very abusive. And I took it to the church. No one in my church believed me because of my past. They wanted proof. I gave them proof. They still didn't believe me.
Wow.
So I had to fight. So I felt like I was being abused all over again, but by a different system, which was the church.
Mhm.
So I've been at every spectrum that you can think of. And I'm still here today. In spite of everything, I'm still here and I'm still standing. So I know there is still work for me to be done. And I know God's not done with me yet. He's not finished writing my story. But when it's all said and done, one day, you know what, I will have that fairy tale love that I always, deep down inside, I've always desired it. I was always afraid of it, and I'm gonna fulfill my purpose here, because when my mother left this earth, she was saved, loved the Lord, but she left this world broken.
Mm.
And I looked at her life and I said, I refuse to die and be broken.
Me too.
I'm not going nowhere until I have fulfilled my purpose.
Yeah.
And I have to tell myself that every single day. Barbara, you shall live and not die. Because God's purpose is going to be done in my life. And after I have fulfilled that purpose, and after I have fallen in deeply in love and had years to enjoy that man, then God, he can take me. I'll be ready then.
What I've looked back on, so many of us women go through violent things, and I'll just put it as that.
You're right.
And I got to a point to where I had to look at the positive.
Mm-hmm.
And it helped me to overcome what had just happened. But I was able to say, okay, that had to happen because I'm still alive.
Right.
And let's say that if that man didn't do what that man did to me at that point in time, I was going to get into an accident and I wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
And my life was going to be taken. So if you have a choice between your life being taken or something that you can and you are strong enough to move on and heal from,
You're right.
move on and heal from, because you have such a powerful message. You are such a strong, beautiful woman, encouraging others, men and women, because I agree with you. This is not all just about what women go through.
Right.
Men go through it too.
Yes, they
Men
do.
are abused and taken advantage of as well.
Yes, they are.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there are women out there that will professionally get married and divorced.
Mm-hmm.
And they wind up taking everything from that man. They wind up there's so many different situations, and
Right.
they are also victims.
Yes, they are.
And your path, your story can help everyone. Do you do public speaking?
I'm going to be doing more of that this year in 2018. You know, I'm asking God to just start to open up those doors. You know, I really want to go around to speak with women and men. You know, because it's like it's not a gender thing. You know, we like to make it. I wanted to make it a gender thing, but it's not a gender thing. You know, it's just it's a cycle of abuse, and it doesn't matter whether you're male or female, young or old. You know, we all have experienced it. We all have different stories. We all have something that we can share that's going to help other people. You know, and I feel that the more we talk about it, you know, and the reason why I believe that that's why that the enemy hits us so hard, because he doesn't want us to be free.
Mm-hmm.
There is an enemy out there that wants you bound and wants
Mm-hmm.
you to live in a mental prison. You know, and one thing he knew, that if us women, because women, we love to talk, and if we start to share, okay, chains going to start to fall off, and he doesn't want that. So he wants to keep us bound so that we don't help one another. You know, and you know, because there are some women that I have met and talked with, and they really struggle, and I know I can sense their pain, you know, because I'm a woman myself, you know, and try to get them to open up sometimes is so hard. And I'm like, just let it go. You know, you don't have to keep it inside. You held it in for all these years. Let it go now, you know, be free from it, you know. But sometimes it's like wearing an old pair of shoes.
Mm-hmm.
You wear them long enough, they become comfortable. And sometimes we are comfortable with our insanity and we don't want to let go of it, you know. Really, I got tired of my insanity. I'm like, you know what? I knew it had to be an opposite
Mm-hmm.
to what I was living. And I
Yes.
was determined I was going to find what that opposite was. I refused to believe that this is life and this is how my life was supposed to be. And no good is going to come from it. I said, has to be some good. You don't go through that kind of pain not to have something good happen at the end of it. You
Right.
know, so it's just about every day getting up. And some days I have my good days, and some days I have bad days, you know. But when I'm having a bad day, I like to turn on my music and I like to listen to my gospel music. You know, surround myself with positive people that's going to lift you up. And Vince is one of them. You know, he always encourages me. You know, he's one of my biggest cheerleaders. You know, he always cheering me on. You know, he always telling me, you know, what you can do. You know, and I thank God for him. You know, and there's other people that do it as well. You know, so definitely get yourself a core amount of people in your life that are for you,
Mm-hmm.
and those that are not for you, then you have to love them from a distance.
Right. And that's
Because
okay.
and it's okay, because even if it's family,
Mm-hmm.
because some people are just toxic and they can't be in your life at that time,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So you need, you know, so you need to break away from some people, you know, and I'm learning to do that, and I'm learning that it's okay. But sometimes you feel guilty
Mm-hmm.
because you're like, well, that's my family, I don't want to. But sometimes you just have to. You know, it's like I remember reading in the Bible, you know, it's like God told Abraham, he said, leave your kinfolk and go to the land I will show you. There was a reason why he didn't want, you know, Abraham to take his family. You
Mm-hmm.
know, there is a principle behind that, you know, so it's okay to cut people out of your life. You know, it is perfectly okay. My biggest thing is always felt guilty. So I had to deal with the guilt. So I had to deal with the guilt, the rejection, you know, and so there was many different things that I really had to battle with, you know, but I'm on my way now, you know, and you know, that's the most important thing right now, is that I'm on my way.
It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
It really is. And Vince, I want to ask you a question. And then we
Of
may,
course.
yes. All right. So let me ask the question first. And this is about Barbara.
Please do.
Tell me what you see in Barbara from your perspective.
I see a woman who I deeply admire, who has so much class, has so much ability, has so much to look forward to, and who doubts herself. She
Mm-hmm.
doubts herself. in many ways, has the ultimate ability to just become such a huge blessing on everybody. She's full of love. She's full of life. She has so much to give, and she doubts herself, and she should not doubt herself. She's truly, truly a blessing on the world. I mean, she can do so much. She needs a she needs one chance, one break, one opportunity to do that. And I believe 2018 is going to be Barbara's time, Barbara's year.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's from a man who
Well,
loves
thank you.
you. I want to resonate in that moment for just a moment because that is so beautiful. You've gone through so much, and it's brought you to this beautiful man. I didn't even know you were going to be connecting with me tonight, but I'm so glad that you did. I really am. Are you guys close? Do you live somewhere close by each other?
What, maybe, well, we both I live in Baltimore City, in the city, so we pretty much close to each other as far as,
Yes, we are.
yeah, maybe
Yeah.
what, 15, 20 minutes?
20 minutes.
Mm-hmm,
20
yeah.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it up. This is adorable. Please keep it going. I want to do maybe a Valentine's Day segment, have the two of you come back on again. But for tonight, we've spoken about your book. You have a magazine.
Yes.
And this magazine I have pictures, but I don't think with three of us on here, it'll come up there, but that's okay. It's called Be Who You Are.
Yeah.
Tell me about the concept of the magazine, please.
Well, in 2015, God spoke to me about the magazine, and I'm like, I've never done a magazine. I can't do this. So because I lack confidence, growing up, I constantly heard, "You like your father. You're never gonna amount to nothing." So I never had the confidence that I could do anything or finish anything. So what happened was that the concept came for the name Be Who You Are. And God started connecting me with some influential women. One young lady, her name is Nicole Rodriguez. She has a public relations firm out in Beverly Hills. And I worked very close with her, and she helped me get some amazing people between her and Roger Neal. He has a PR company out in Beverly Hills as well. Wonderful man of God. So God has really put some amazing people in my life that really helped me with getting the right people on the front cover of the magazine. And we did features on beauty, fashion, health, lifestyle, entertainment, just a regular full blown magazine. So the first cover of my magazine featured Crystal Hefner, Hugh Hefner's wife, and Roger Neal helped me to get that interview. And from that point on, that the doors just started opening up with some amazing women that are that are world changers, women that are really changing the world. So it's been an incredible year. I did take a break from it because everything started to be overwhelming between my PR firm and then with the book and the magazine and the family. Everything just started to be too much. So I'm like, you know what? I had to take a break for a moment so I can regroup because I wanted to give the magazine a new twist, something fresh, something newer. And sometimes when you want to do that, sometimes you got to let go of certain things or even certain connections so that you can get a different product out there, you know? So that's what I started to work on in the middle of 2017. So we're going to be putting that out in the next few months. I'm excited about that issue. I'm going to be featuring, I don't want to let anything out the bag right now, but going to be pleasantly surprised who I have on the front cover. So I'm excited about that. So it's been a great journey. and God has allowed me to do things that I never thought I could ever do in my entire life. Because once as a child and you continue to hear certain things, you don't believe that you could do anything. You
Right.
lack the confidence, and then it seems like everything that I put my hands on, it just seems to just fall to the side. After a while, it starts to line up with the
Right.
words that what people have said about you.
Mhm.
So you just feel that you're worthless. So you just try to muster through life the best way you know how and try to make the most of it. But I knew there had to be something else in life other than just a job.
Mhm.
I knew there had to be a career, it had to be a purpose. And God has allowed me to do things that I never thought I could possibly do. So I thank God for it every single day. He continues to open up doors for me, and I'm excited about it. I really am. So 2018, yeah, 2018 is the year.
It is. It
Yeah.
is the year, and you're so right. It's ironic how God will work and God will speak to you.
Hmm.
And I had to go on a trip fairly recently, and my Uber driver, the entire way, our trip down to the airport, which was an hour and a half long because we were going through traffic and everything, and the Uber driver spoke nothing but the Bible in how I can hear the Bible.
Hmm.
Because I think there's different ways that you can speak it.
Right.
And not everyone hears what you're saying
Right.
if it's not being spoken in the way that they hear it. And so we were having a great conversation. One thing he said was that we're spoken spirits.
Mm.
And that really resonated with me. And I
Right.
have a best friend of mine that got so mad at himself that out loud he was saying, "Oh, I'm so stupid and I'm this." And I said, "No, no, 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 no. No, don't say that. You are a spoken spirit. The
Mm.
moment you say that about yourself, everybody else is going to say it about you too, because
Right.
that's what you're putting out there as yourself to be."
Right.
So it's okay to be in a learning process. I think all of life is a learning
Hmm.
process. And it's okay to say, "Oh, gee, you know what? I messed up, but I'm going to learn this and this and this from my mistake and move
Right.
forward."
Right.
But don't talk negatively or downward to yourself. And it was so interesting because it actually spoke to him and it resonated to him. And he said, "I realized why I'm so hard on myself." And of course, it came up, something with the childhood, and it
Hmm.
built upon his story of who he is.
Right.
I thought, that's so interesting how we get those messages that we
Right.
don't know these messages, and then if we try to ignore the messages, they come in threes.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Most definitely. I've had it come in threes
Yes.
quite
So
often.
back to the magazine, however, because you were mentioning the amazing people. I think Vince just left us. So Vince,
Hmm.
if you're still watching, thank you for connecting. Um, the amazing ladies that you've had on your cover. Did you have Michelle Obama?
Yes. Yes.
No way.
Her. Yeah, featured her on the front cover. Like I said, it was like, because what happened is when I started doing radio, it was I interviewed Dr. Elizabeth King. She's an amazing woman out in Fort Lauderdale. And her publicist reached out to me the day before the interview. And she said to me, she says, "Barbara, are you connected to any type of database for public relations?" And I'm like, "No." And she says, "We're going to have to get you connected." Elizabeth, I didn't know what the heck was happening. I just said yes. And that's all I did. So what happened is that um, Angie reached out to me that same day from Cisco and wanting all my information. And then from that point on, I started getting all these emails about different people that I can feature, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with all this? And then God told me, says, "This is what you're going to feature in the magazine. I'm giving you to people." So when I featured a dear friend of mine's, Nicole Rodriguez, she was my December's issue. She was one who helped me land the amazing other women from January, I mean, for the entire year of 2016 and 2017, I still work with her today. In fact, when I was getting ready to promote the magazine again, I reached out to her and she says, "Barbara, you let me know when you're ready to go because I have people lined up for you." So it's just God just connecting me with the right people at the right time. So Michelle Obama, Jennifer Love Hewitt, we did her feature, because that was when the time that which she was pregnant, and she was doing a commercial for Palmer cocoa butter. So her publicist had reached out to me wanting to know would I be interested in featuring it. And I'm like, okay, I'd rather do a front cover, and so it took a little bit of time. It wasn't something that they agreed upon right away. It did take like about almost 2 weeks, but they finally got back to me and gave me that confirmation that we can do the feature. So I've been very blessed with the people who I've met, because there's no way. But I remember when I first got started, God told me, He says, you don't have to go after people. I'm going to bring you people. And God has done exactly that. He has brought every person in my life. I never had to chase anyone down. I never had to do anything other than just stand there, be obedient, and He just started connecting me, So lately, over the last year, He's been connecting me with people in the film industry. So I know there's a reason why, so I'm just waiting on that, but Michelle Obama, that was a very interesting feature. I was very blessed to have that opportunity, and all the others, because every last woman has a purpose, and some people, they look at it, oh, well, Barbara, you know, how can someone come from where you come from and now you here today, you know? And sometimes people, they look at your life and they think that it's so easy.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a clue to your struggles. They don't know what kind of hell that you've been through. They don't know what you had to overcome. They don't know anything. All they see, oh, well, you have done this and you have featured this person. You don't know the nights that I went to bed, really did not sleep at all. Because when you're first starting a business, it's like you stay up long, you have long days and long nights. I could be in bed sleeping and then I get a thought and then I got to get up because I can't rest with it.
Right.
So I'm constantly working, and people don't realize the work that goes into it. So I think that when the next issue comes out, that's going to be one of my best issues, but you know I don't want to give it away too soon, but people are going to be pleasantly surprised on that cover.
Wow.
So it's going to be, it's going to be very good, and I'm trying to do it at the same time that the book comes out. So we're going to have like a double whammy, we got the magazine and we got the book at the same time, So, and I wanted to do more animation with the magazine. So that's why I had to take a step back to regroup and refocus. So that I could be able to bring, because there's so much competition out there. So you have to have something that's going to put your magazine over the edge, that's going to make it stand out from all the others.
Yeah.
If you want to sell magazines, and I'm not in it to lose money. I'm there to make money, and it's been a good career with the magazine, so with the animation, I think it's going to be a little bit more, we're going to do more graphics, so I'm very excited about it.
Wow. Well, it is just absolutely beautiful. I've been popping it up there. It's called magster.com.
Right.
That's magster.com.
Right.
And it's so interesting to look at your first edition and then to look at the most recent edition. It is a really nice magazine to begin with. Yeah. But you have grown it by leaps and bounds, and it has so much in there now.
Yeah.
It's a nice publication.
Yeah. I'm very pleased with it. When I first got started, I didn't have a clue. I didn't know what to do, and I was like, okay, God, take the wheel. You told me to do this. Now you got to do it. And he did exactly that. He really did. He had to teach me, and that's what I tell people. Always be teachable. Don't ever think that you know it all, because no one does, and you have to. And my biggest thing is that God started connecting me with men that actually had to teach me. And I was never good at taking instructions from a man.
No.
So I had to really eat some humble pie. And sometimes it felt like rocks going down my throat, but I had to learn how to be more humble and allow them to teach me.
Mhm.
so that I can grow.
Yeah.
So that's been a challenge, So, and that's why I say God got a good sense of humor. He know exactly how to get you. You know, it's like, it's like everything I tried to do in life, he always had men there that I had to. There was no way around it. It was like he wasn't sending me women. He was always bringing me. I'm like, why now? Why you got to bring this person? Bring me a female. Bring me a woman to help me. It's always been a man, and I'm like, okay, God, I know what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So it's like he's really softening me. He really is. God is. And like I said, Vince is just amazing. He truly is. He is my dearest friend ever, and I have other friends as well that has been very good to me and listen to me. I remember when I was in Atlanta and traveling back and forth a lot, and I remember being on the phone with Vince in the evenings or at night, and I would be having a moment that I would just break down and cry, and he would just listen to me cry and wail on the phone. Sometimes it'd be a half hour, 45 minutes. I'm just in tears. I'm bawling, and, he never got tired. He never said, okay, Barbara, you know what, get it together, dry them tears, he just listened to me cry, and he always had encouragement words for me. And one thing, what I say, he always prays. We always pray for each other, and for that, I will forever be grateful. I will always be grateful for that and that friendship. I really will.
Look at everything you've gone through and this
Mhm.
long, long path you've already walked, even though you have many happy years ahead of you.
Yeah.
And the patient man that was given to you. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know a single man out there that would listen over the phone to me crying for 45 minutes. I don't know one. I don't. I've heard, chemically, our pheromones are different when we're crying, and it actually repulses men. But
Yeah.
of course, over the phone, you don't get that. But still, what a beautiful, please tell him, since he's dropped off the broadcast, I can't tell him myself, tell him thank you for being a very patient, loving, kind man.
I will, and he is definitely that. God knew exactly who to bring in my life.
Mm. And
He
look
knew
at,
exactly who to bring in my life, and he's taught me so much about myself, taught me about relationships, because I didn't know what a relationship was.
yeah.
I was completely clueless, and God has brought this person into my life to teach me so many wonderful things, and he's been very patient with me, very, very patient, and for that, I will always be grateful for, and that's why I say, we can always be in each other's lives. I don't ever see us not being in each other's lives,
A
you
reason,
know.
a season, and a lifetime. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and I can't wait to see your next edition of Be Who You
Hmm.
Are.
Okay.
I have a couple ideas of who might be on there, but I don't know where those ideas are coming from because you haven't shared it with me. So I'm going to be patient too, and
Yeah,
I'll
be patient.
next edition. I'm going
Hmm.
to pop up magster.com, magster.com. That's how that you can acquire the magazine. You can also view the magazine, which it's extremely clean. It's beautiful. It has great content. So please go check out Be Who You Are on magster.com. And did you say that your book is not available, the first edition, which is
The first edition, Tell from San Insane, is not available at this moment because I
okay,
had to pull it so that I could get that last chapter in.
all right.
And
So
it's been a struggle to get that last chapter done, but I'm almost there, and it'll be out March 20th. Both books. So what I am going to be offering is that I'm offering two things. For the first book, you can buy the first book and get the second book free. If you can afford to get the second book, I'm giving it to you free.
one.
Uh, so what I'm going to be doing like a little bit of a tour. I'm going to start in Baltimore, and I'm going to work my way from Baltimore to Delaware, Philadelphia, and then New York, because I want to target these independent bookstores, because independent bookstores would be more apt to host my book in their stores, because what are they going to they're not going to lose anything by hosting it. So that's the direction that my publicist told me that's where we're going to be working at. So I'm going to start with those 4 places first. And then in the summer, I'm going to work my way to Washington, D.C. till I get to Florida. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing over the next 9 months to promote both books. So I am going to be looking for opportunities at bookstores or speaking engagements or anywhere that I can take my book and just to tell my story, but also to hear other people's stories as well and what their struggles are, so we can help each other. It's not about just because I found out so often when I go to help someone else, I leave being blessed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm definitely looking forward to 2018. Is off to a great start so far, so I can only imagine how it's going to end. And I believe it's going to end
on fire.
Something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sensing that. I really am. It's like I had to go through a pruning stage, and God would take you through that because He has to prune you. He has to strip some things from you. And He has to mold you and get you ready. It's like I call it spiritual boot camp.
That is a great way of putting it.
I call it spiritual boot camp. He got to work out. He got to get you out in that field. He got to work out some things. He can't just send you out there and you're not prepared.
Right.
Because God wants you to succeed in everything that what you do. And so often, if we're not prepared, and we go out there, what ends up happening is that we're not going to be able to sustain ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And God wants you to sustain yourself. He wants you to have lasting fruit. Mm-hmm. Not just something that's going to be here today and gone tomorrow.
Exactly.
So there is some pruning that's been going on in my life these last 4 years, but it's where I'm at today. So I'm very happy with it.
Well, I'm very, very happy for you. And I can't wait to see the magnitude of success that is waiting for you. And you are right there. I can't wait to see it. And I pray for you to have strength and to have tenacity to continue, because that's what it's going to take. And we know that. You already have it. You are a strong woman. You're a beautiful woman. And when you are speaking to women and sharing your story and sharing your positivity and giving all of us hope, please let me know. Okay. Because I know that you're going to be doing that.
Yeah.
And you have gone through so much, and you're alive and you're healthy and you're blessing all of us. And you've blessed all of us through this interview. And I want to say thank you from my heart.
Thank you.
And just have a wonderful 2018, because it's on fire for you.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I just want to say thank you for having me on your show this evening, and I'm looking forward to working with you, and doing some features and be who you are as well, because, you and I, we met for a reason.
We did.
So now it's time that, this is the season for us to really work together.
I think so.
So I'm excited, and anything I can do to help you in any way in my magazine, you just let me know. I definitely want to be able to work with you and get some things on the calendar for 2018.
All right. I'm ready. I'm here for you. I'm just a phone call away.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Have a good night's sleep, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, sweetheart. Thank you so much. Right. God bless you.
God bless you too. Bye.
Bye.
Wow. Thank you so much, Barbara and Vince. That was an amazing story. I really, I was crying there at a moment. I really was. I can't imagine what it would be like to tuck your children in and actually be saying goodnight forever to them. And those are the things that have been placed on Miss Barbara Archer's shoulders. And she's still with us. And she is a blessing. She is a beautiful woman of magnitude. That please take a look at Be Who You Are magazine on magster.com, as well as the book releases. She's releasing both her first book and her brand new second book, which is more of a workbook, as she said. which from Insanity to Sane is the first one, and Dare to be Insane is the second one. And the deal is, if you buy the first one, she will give you the second for free. So take a look for that. She's going on book tour. 2018 is her year. And I will be back with you bright and early in the morning. I have another beautiful woman that has a fabulous story about her life, and you just absolutely will not believe it. So join me tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, and have a great night.